I guess I don't want either of you to be mad at me, but I'm gonna make a nomination for Brian to try to take over, and I don't want him to be too headstrong though at the same time. I gotta tell him that right now, facing up. So I'll make a nomination for Brian.
Can I second my own nomination?
You better, because I won't.
Hey, listen, before we go any further here, this is not about doing a better job. This is about doing a slightly different job. And, you know, we're all in the same car together. I might have a heavier foot than you. And I just feel like we've got a lot to do. And, you know, in the past year that I did have some points of frustration, and it's not, you know, directly attributed to, you know, not being chair or whatever, but I'd like to have a more active role in the agenda, and I'd like to drive, you know, I'd like an opportunity to be more engaged with our direction. So I'll second that.
You realize, Kelly, I'm gonna have a governor on you though.
With a motion and a second, I'll take a roll call of the vote. Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Wydeck?
Aye.
And Mr. Johnson will vote aye to keep the unanimous nature of the vote reluctantly. And with that said, I turn the meeting over to you.
Knowing, you know, how deep it's been cut, how the town's been impacted, I would have a very hard time living with myself not giving the town the opportunity to at least bring back some of the services that were lost. I don't think, and you know, I'm not in the mind of a no voter. I was a yes voter. But, you know, I don't know how many no voters wanted to see as deep a cut as has been made. And I wonder how many of them would, you know, would be amenable to somewhere and meeting in the middle.
At this time, can I make a motion that we adjourn and continue this 2 weeks from tonight because of the tardiness of this meeting?
Well, I would not second that, only because if we don't do something with respect to this tonight, it's not going to be able to happen at a September.
But I have another member. We gotta ask if he wants to second.
He's waiting to second. I will second. This is Mr. Johnson. I'm going to second Mr. Wydeck's motion. I recognize that this does create the reality that we cannot put this on a ballot for September 1st. I think we were already running dangerously close to an open meeting law violation in doing that, even though we're right on the edge of whether that was acceptable or not. But the reality, I think, is that the townspeople spoke 4 weeks ago. They spoke pretty loudly. We're coming up with a better plan. I think this is a good step, but it's only a part of that plan. It doesn't address some of the concerns that people like Mr. Webster have expressed. It does not address some of the concerns that we've gotten in initial rounds of feedback from a survey in terms of why people are voting no. And I think we owe the people not just a restoration of some of these services, but we owe them a thorough job to present a plan that's better.
When we know the severity of what's happened, with every day that passes is the opportunity for something horrific to happen, which I do not want on my conscience.
Tonight I have gotten 9 different texts to me that said this was absurd, that we are trying to throw it down the people's throat so quick. And I also am a little concerned about if we try to put this on for tonight, we have an election coming, but I don't think it can be done at that primary because there's so many other ballots that have to be done.
I get what you are saying. I voted yes for the override. I have a son who's a firefighter. I have family members who are teachers, school superintendents. I get it. I get what I'm dealing with my office now without my assistant working, but I can't see having a dual election September 1st. The June 29th dual election was so busy and that was just 2 ballots. We have 4 political parties. So it would be an election with 5 ballots, fewer election workers, still social distancing, keeping 6 feet apart. I just think it's hard. It's hard for the voters. It's confusing for them. On June 29th, we had such a hard time with people hearing what the voter was saying, what the election worker was saying, because we're wearing masks. It just was a difficult situation. I mean, you could put this question on the November ballot if you gave me the language by August 5th. And I mean, that's November 3rd. It would be 1 election, 1 ballot. And it would be a large turnout because it's a presidential election. But the September 1st primary, it would be a nightmare.
A motion, and we have a second, gentlemen.
Yes, we do.
Mr. Johnson,
Johnson votes in favor.
Mr. Wydack,
Votes in favor of adjourning.
Mr. Kelly votes nay. The ayes have it. Begrudgingly, given time constraints and given the severity of some things, is why I wanted to talk about it tonight. It's why it was a late edition. It's why it was literally the last day we would have had to talk about it in order for it to get on a certain ballot. That obviously, that ship has sailed. We will revisit this topic again in a future meeting, I promise you. And with that, we say goodnight, Plainville.